All right, everybody, good evening, and thank you to all of those and all of our guests that are here tonight and endured the rain and the poor conditions outside to be here, and to all of our listeners that are doing it remotely. Thank you for participating. Welcome to January's caucus meeting. We'll go ahead and get started with just a couple of announcements. This Friday, January the 12th, we will have a 2-hour early dismissal for students. That will be a professional learning opportunity for our staff and our faculty. So it will be a 2-hour early dismissal. Monday is also, we'll be off school in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Memorial holiday, so no students will be in on Monday in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King. Our teachers and staff will be learning and growing together as we have a full day of professional learning together during that day. So moving right in to resignations, leaves, transfers, and employment. Coming up for our January 16th, 2024 regular board meeting to occur at 7 o'clock. Moving ahead under resignations, unfortunately, we have Shay Bitterman from the position of paraprofessional and Lori Tichy from the position of library aide. And Laura has done an excellent job for many years in our library, and we wish her all the best. And with regret, we have a retirement announcement for Mrs. Deb Richmond. Mrs. Richmond has been an incredible teacher in our middle school for several years, and we're excited for her to be able to enjoy retirement at the conclusion of this school year. Under employment, we have a recommendation for Sydney Allender as a paraprofessional, Katrina Evans from Duncannon for the position of middle school art, Landon Finger, as a custodian 1, Kathleen Good as a lunch recess aide, and we have some change in status, including Mrs. Stephanie Pagliaro from the position taking a break from community relations coordinator to the position of long-term substitute at bachelor's prorated step 1 for high school English language arts. So she's stepping in, and we're excited. That's been a career passion of hers, and she's been involved in the intern program, learning and growing, and we think she'll do an excellent job there as well. And we're excited for that opportunity for her. And Mrs. Abby Stefano from Master's Step 4 to Master's Step 5, I believe, at an approved rate based on the collective bargaining agreement. We have a retroactive improvement from Publicity Advisor for fall play for Stephanie Pagliaro. She's completed that. We just need to retroact and make sure that she gets the appropriate contract to be able to pay her accordingly. Athletic coaches and volunteers. Unfortunately, we have the resignation of Mr. Terrence Shepler from the position of head coach for boys track and field. And I'd like to thank Mr. Shepler for all of his work, himself and just the entire coaching staff, building that track and field program and putting the time in. So I am convinced that Mr. Shepler will continue to be involved in a lot of our different athletics and activities. So I'm hoping to see him, and I'm confident we will, out in the track this spring in a different capacity. For appointments, head coach for softball, Mr. Rodney Reed, and a volunteer wrestler, Mr. Bo Ritter. Guest teacher, and we always can use guest teachers and substitute teachers, so if you have an interest, please reach out to us. We would be more than interested. Even if you have a few vacation days somebody would like to take, you certainly could do so to come in the classroom and join us. We have Aaron Komp from Millerstown joining us, and an authorization to commit employment. So that, at this point, is our resignations, leave, transfers, and employment. I will pause for a moment to see if there's any questions. Hearing none at this time, I'll move into agenda items. The first agenda item for January 16th is a routine agenda item, but it's to approve the Cumberland Perry Career and Technical Center budget, which includes for us our contribution for Susquenita School District. It is a 5.18% increase from the 23-24 school year. It's roughly at this point a $24,109 increase of 5.18%. So our total contribution is $489,638. The last couple of years, we've had a 0% increase over the last 2 years, and unfortunately, it results in some of the drivers that are explained to us for the Cumberland Perry Career and Tech Center's budget are, like most things, it's healthcare, an increase in healthcare, as well as the adding of a position from a position they extended into their ESSERS program that's now came off. And I believe that was an instructional coach, a very valuable position, and one that certainly will benefit the teachers that are there and that ongoing professional learning.
Quick question. Is the percent of the budget based on the number of students we have go there, or is it based on something else? So
the percentage of budget, I believe, is based on average daily membership, as well as, so there's a formula. I can get that formula for you on their total, very similar to how we made up our contribution to the building project. So ADM versus our capacity, yes. So we'll have to take a look at what that percentage is to make up that
The only reason I was asking is because I know that I believe that we have had students turned away, right, because we didn't have enough spots.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and so I was wondering, like, are other school districts paying for more spots? Like, are they, you know what I mean?
Well, we filled we get a quota amount of students, and we fill that, and it's based on the amount, like the position or the program of study that a student will apply into. So it's really a pretty competitive application process, and it really is based upon the area of program of study that a student could apply into, depending on what a popular program would be, based upon how many applicants are there.
Okay.
And we get X amount. And it's also based on the amount of seniors that exit versus the amount of sophomores that have the availability.
Okay. Sounds good. Thanks.
Thank you. But I will work on getting that breakdown for you.
It's not that important. I mean, I don't need you to do much legwork on that. I was just kind of looking at the way the percentages, I didn't know if it was just based on size of the school, like, you know, our total population, not, which may dictate how many slots we get, right?
Correct.
That I just wasn't, and I think when my eyes looked at it, I thought it looked like West Perry was paying 4 times as much as us, which I thought that doesn't sound right because they're not 4 times as big. And I realized I was looking at West Shore, so it's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other motions? We'll have a motion on January 16th to dissolve the cooperative interscholastic athletic agreement for high school girls soccer with Newport. The PIAA has already approved the ending of this cooperative agreement. There's also a motion to recommend Carol Ann Johns as an approved Aurora van driver, and she'll be on our van driver list. Bless you. A contract motion to approve a 23-24 consortium special education agreement with our Perry County schools. So we exchange students based upon program needs, and it's great. And Mrs. Bresci has done an excellent job of working with the other special ed directors throughout our county and region to look at how we can share resources. It both is fiscally responsible as well as making sure that the needs of our students are met. We have some policies. We will have a motion to approve the second reading of educational trips and travel reimbursement. We have a discipline committee recommendation. Depending on where we are at tonight, academic calendar, so a motion possibly to approve the 24-25 based on discussions this evening. We have a field trip, which is exciting for the A-Push, the AP U.S. History class, to go to a field trip at Washington, D.C. on Thursday, March 7th to Sunday, March 10th to various museums, bowling, escape room. I believe a tour of the Capitol is also in that itinerary I was seeing, and just a phenomenal opportunity to go and visit our nation's capital and what they're studying, to talk about, live it, hear it, and to be a part of it. And that rounds out our agenda items. Any questions on those? Great. Hearing none, I'm going to turn the baton over to the left. He's not feeling a little. He's feeling a little under the weather, so just bear with him as he handles review of finances. And I'm going to move my chair over.
Good evening. You have two sets of board summaries in front of you, one for the month ending November and one for the month ending December. With the December 4th reorganization, we did not have statements available. For the month ending 11/30 of 2023, we have revenue of 44.5%, $18,278,298, and we have expenses of 32.11%, or $22,867,686. And then moving on to the second set, the board summary as of December 31st. Revenue has increased to 57.55%, and the expenses have increased to 47.51%. Questions?
I just have a question. On the expenses, the difference between, it's under 1,100, line item 800. It looks like there's a significant jump in expenditures between November and December, which put us at, we were almost at 100% of expending what was budgeted in November, but by December, we were at 800, almost 800% of expending what was budgeted. It looks like there was a bill for almost $21,000.
Yes. So there are some, again, classification issues that we have. It does sound terrible at 800%. As a total, it is 21,000, like you mentioned. We're in the process of trying to reclassify those expenses as we go along. There are a number of other ones as well. And for example, under 2,500 other purchased services, we believe it's appropriate to place the insurance for the district to that account. And so that's why we're over by $19,990 there. So it's just a matter of reclassification. I can get you the detail on exactly what those invoices are, but it's a matter of reclassifying the amounts.
Do we know where that 21,000 was actually budgeted and classified so that we should be able to see that offset?
Yes, when I do that transfer, I can show that to you what it is.
Perfect. Thank you.
I think we'd all like to see that because I think a lot of people are probably feeling like the misclassification thing has been going on for a very long time. So being able to see where it was expected versus where it actually landed is what we haven't really had. So that's what we're after. So thank you.
Certainly.
All right, from review of finances, we're going to now, on our caucus agendas moving forward, we're going to do just updates on curriculum and instruction. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Snyder for some updates on curriculum and instruction. Ms. Snyder?
Thank you, Dr. Fox. As you mentioned earlier, we do have two actual kind of work sessions coming up. I call them work sessions because we just have a lot of things going on. On Friday, we have our 2-hour early dismissal where teachers are able to really just kind of take the time to work in their building. It's the end of the marking period, grades, a lot of different things, meetings happening. And then we'll kind of segue into Monday's in-service where we have a lot going on. So it's always like that. It's hustle and bustle at each of the buildings, and it's based on what the buildings need. At the elementary, we have been working extremely hard on a couple different presentations that we have taking place on Monday. One is based on structured literacy, which is a state mandate in Chapter 49. So we have been trained and working for months putting that together. So we're really excited to present that to the elementary. And then also, we have a group, our science leadership team at the elementary has been working on curriculum updates and things that they want to share in the afternoon of the in-service day. Also, we have a lot of curriculum writing going on. So teachers working just on their coursework. I know Mr. Funk's going to talk a little bit about some of those new courses coming up. So we have that scheduled for Monday. And then Ms. Brezzi has her secondary transition training. So we have a lot of teachers that are taking a mandated online training that they need to take for our monitoring that will be coming up next year. So we have a busy day planned for Monday. I also wanted to bring up, we're just really excited. We're kind of just starting this. We haven't had, more than one meeting yet, but we did kick off our inaugural curriculum council meeting, where we're really just sort of have representatives from across the district sort of meeting up together to go over things that are going on in the district related to curriculum, instruction, and assessment. And it's quite a big undertaking because there's a lot to discuss. So I know coming up in future meetings, we're just going to really kind of plow through a lot of those ideas, and we'll have a lot of things to bring back and share with you as we move forward. I also gave you a copy tonight, and I know it's several pages. You will not get a chance to look through and read it right at this moment, but it is our latest copy of our curriculum review and planning process manual. So it's something that I've worked on and really revised for the district, and we've really put it into place this year where we're working with different departments based on where they are at in the curriculum writing cycle, looking at resources, just writing opportunities, things that they need for their classes. And it's based on a 6-year cycle, so it takes us, time to work through that process, but at least it gives us that continual review of our courses and what's happening in those. So if you get a moment and you would be able to read through that and provide some feedback, I would greatly appreciate it. Like I said, we kind of revised it and have really started to implement it this year, and I think we're doing pretty well so far, but we're just going to be busy every year trying to get through a lot of the work that needs to be done, so.
Can I ask a question on it right now?
Absolutely.
I noticed one of the things we're adding is personal finance. So, and I think that is amazing. I'm wondering, I see it's a business credit. I'm wondering if that could also be considered as a mathematics credit. Because when you have students who've taken Algebra 1, Algebra 2, geometry, but they don't want to take pre-calc, or trig, there's really nothing left for them other than like consumer math. And if we're going to give a credit for consumer math, I would think financial algebra would be a much better math credit for someone who just doesn't want to take advanced math, the thought.
One thing, and one reason we, besides requests for personal finance, is the new
It is the
state
new law.
regulation where
Yeah.
it's a requirement that we offer a personal financial management course here. It's not a graduation requirement, but
Right.
we're mandated to have the students take it. So that's one of the forces to get it in here. So what we're looking at it is phasing it in. It doesn't have to start until 25-26 school year, but Mr. DeLellis, working with us, is ready to go for this next school year. So what we're going to do is pair it starting in 9th grade and make it maybe opposite like health, the way we used to do career readiness. So all students are able to take that class, or are required to take the personal finance maybe for the first semester and flip-flop with health or another math credit one. And then moving on, we'll start bringing in other students to make sure they have it. So in the next couple of years, all students going through here will be required to take the personal finance. The credits, we can work on whether they're getting a business credit or math credit. Some of that has to do with certification, but Mr. DeLellis, we're going to be able to work around that here next year. Since we're rolling it out. I don't know about this year, but next year.
I'd love to see it be a full credit instead of a half credit, because being a half credit, you have to almost do what you were talking about doing. But I think in the past, and I know things have changed, but in the past, like business ed teachers that taught accounting you were able to get a math
Yes.
credit
You can get
for
a math.
accounting being taught by a business
Yep.
education teacher. So I think Mr. DeLellis probably, I don't know.
Will
what
be,
his-
yes.
Would be so if we could offer it as a math credit, it could be done. But I definitely think we should definitely consider offering it as a math credit, but. Because they only have 9 electives, so basically what I'm hearing is they're going to be forced to take this financial class as one of their 9 electives, which might limit their electives into arts or some other area.
It shouldn't impact, because when we did the career readiness, that was mandated also as part of 339. So they should still have plenty of time to pick all their extra electives. And as you know, 9th grade, they get the last choice of electives for the most part, because we start with VOTEC and seniors and that. But yeah, we can look at, in the future, moving to giving a math credit, working out certification.
It looks like the description for consumer math has a lot of financial math in it
And it does.
anyway.
If you recall, was it 2 years ago, Dr. Jones, we rolled out a student financial management class and found out, well, Mr. Peterson in his consumer math was covering those concepts. So we sort of did away with that, focused on consumer math, but now with the specific requirements, students can take this class who may not ever take consumer math, because some of the students that do the whole algebra, pre-calc, calc would never take consumer
Right.
math. So now they get to take the personal financial literature class.
I think it's excellent.
I'm excited.
It's
Mr.
exciting.
Ellis met with us and rolled out his whole curriculum and what he's planning to
Yep.
work on. So I think with the other changes he's doing to that department, I'm really excited about moving forward.
Just while we're on that, I know you're probably going to get into it when we go over the course selection, but I'm just, when I was reading the description, is there any chance he would touch on taxes in that class, in that personal finance class? Because I think honestly, I think it's a good thing. And I know in the consumer math, it shows in that, the description in there, but,
And I don't remember the specific breakdown. This is just the overview.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there will be a component on taxes. Just don't recall off the top
Okay.
of my head what the curriculum was for that.
just because I'm thinking some kids that would benefit from personal finance, but wouldn't necessarily take consumer math based
Correct.
on their curriculum, that might be a way to get them exposed to just easy, you know.
So going back to the curriculum, are we ready to put together a curriculum design cycle? Is that what I'm seeing here?
That's what that is, yeah.
So- And
And I know it's confusing to look at that chart right now. It's like, till you see what year everybody's on, but.
That would be on page
Yeah.
7. So can we look at that a little more closely, page 7 of there? Because then, so this year,
Math, 6 through 12, facts, and art are in phase 1.
go ahead, sorry, so,
Art, facts, math, 6 through 12, and science are at step 1.
Which I know you have to flip back, but you can see that reference for each.
That
Yeah.
is.
so I know in the past, and thank you, I can't thank you enough, and I know I've told you this a million times, but the teachers have worked hard, but had very little direction on curriculum for so many years. This is so necessary. But I know in the past, this was also tied into our budget, because if you're doing a science year, you might have to expend a certain amount of money. If you're doing health and phys ed, maybe not as much money. So that's all kind of tied in.
I love that you bring that up, Dr. Jones, because I did try at the bottom of page 7 to kind of highlight some of the subscriptions that we have and expiration dates and things that we're kind of looking at. Doesn't mean that we necessarily have to go with those again whenever they come up for renewal, but I tried to create the cycle where we were looking at budgets for those specific, so it didn't all fall in one year.
Well, I know we just bought world language textbooks because they were so desperately needed, because there wasn't any money invested in world language textbooks for years because the curriculum revision cycle was basically ignored. And I see that's a 3 on here, so we'll have to work around that, because obviously we're going to buy new textbooks in 2 more years.
Right, and again, I know it's kind of like a guide, you're exactly right, like when it comes up on that cycle year, we're able to have discussions and take a look at exactly what's needed. But they're in a 3 because they are actually, they also wrote curriculum over the summer. We reviewed stuff, I think it was back in end of May, beginning of June. So the 3 is that first year of implementation with that resource and new curriculum. So that's kind of why we started there. But we are definitely I feel like even now when I look at this months later, I know some might not be ready to move to the next year, so I need to, keep that in mind as I'm looking through things, so.
I would love us to get back to the point where we had a certain chunk of money in our budget every year so that the teachers in that department would know, and not this year, but the following year, there will be X amount of money or approximate amount of money in the district's budget that will go toward your curriculum and improving your curriculum. Because this is just all what we're doing. We talk athletics, we talk about all these things, but this is academics. This is what we're all about. This is why we're here. And so I just am so happy that you're doing this. And again, I would love to see this reflected even more concretely in our budget. So moving forward. And then the teachers could know. It's not like they're hoping on a wing and a prayer that maybe we're going to be able to throw some money their direction so they could get new probes for the science department or new textbooks or whatever, but they actually should have some faith in realizing, in 2 years after we do our research and we look at our current curriculum, we're going to have the board will have money to invest in giving us current curriculum. So
Love it.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
I just have a question. So for the My Math K through 5, it says the subscription
Yes.
ends this year, but
Yes.
they're in a 2. So how does that?
Because we have been working on different things, I know it's kind of like back and forth, and we might end up keeping them there. Again, it's one that's just, it's been a struggle, just trying to figure out like the back and forth, but I know we were trying to look at the My Math. We knew that was coming up this year. We've worked this year to kind of talk that out, with different grade levels, with Mr. Hamilton, Mrs. Walsman, just trying to figure out how we want to move forward with that. So that is something we will be talking, about as well.
Yeah, I just wasn't sure how that worked, like whether that would be like whether that impacted what level they were on.
And that's,
or
I tried to
whether
keep
it was
them like
just
kind
a
of where we
random-
would be looking at curriculum as well, and then they would be starting maybe year 3 with that like implementation, which is kind of where that fell, where next year would be year 3 for them, and it would be like year 1 with their new subscription, so.
The reality of it is, our teachers have been working really hard, as I said, and should be complimented, with little leadership. So you're basically trying to create a cycle where everyone is in the exact same place.
And that's what's really hard.
Right.
Everyone
And
has
so
needs,
how do
and
you
we have to
decide?
prioritize and kind of work through it that way, so.
So I get,
Yeah.
and for the next couple years, there's
It's
going to
gonna be
be
tight.
overlaps, it's going to be tough. But once we get there, I just hope we stick
Yeah.
to it. I think the board would absolutely commit to it. This is the most important thing we do.
Yeah, we're really excited. Math's in year 1. We're getting ready this month to meet with the secondary math and kind of work through. Mr. Black's helping with that as well. So I'm, really excited just to kind of jump in. But again, it's kind of starting at that first year and then being able to see like, okay, what resources do we need as we move forward with the writing? Do that evaluation of everything.
Because, well, I'm sorry, I'm on a high horse, but like we hire good teachers and they're working their butts off, but they also need to know that they're going to have the supplies and the tools and materials and support that they
Yeah,
need.
absolutely.
So I'm glad for that.
What content area would sex education be under?
Health, we have health. Health
Pardon?
courses.
Health. Thank you.
Yep.
Actually, I see that we're offering a health too. Now, would that, the health class, and if we were talking sex ed, does that also count as a PE credit? Or in this case, would it not count as a PE credit? Because if they take this health
Isn't it-
too.
Right.
Or do they need to have X number of actual phys ed courses in addition to a health?
They have to
Yeah.
have a half credit of health
Yep.
and 3 physical education classes. So this health 2 could count as a PE class because they're focusing more on CPR and first aid. The students will actually be getting their CPR certification.
So it
at
could
the
or
rate.
couldn't?
It could, yes.
So they could actually have 1 credit of health
The 1 credit of
If they
health
want,
and
and 2
then
credits of phys ed,
1
or 1.5?
credit of PE.
Okay.
Because you need 1.5 of PE and half of health, so.
So for the kid who absolutely hates the concept of an actual, quote, gym class, they could take this health class and it will help them alleviate a half credit of the actual
Correct.
physical.
They'd only need to take 2 semesters of PE during their high school career.
Great, thank you.
That's all I had, Dr. Fox.
Thank you. Great segue in to Mr. Funks and Ms. Snyder. Looking at high school curriculum and course offerings for next year. Really good segue in, as we talked about a little bit on financial literacy already. The state's mandate and requirement when it comes to financial literacy, but that is a requirement that we see as a need right now in the hard work of Mr. Delalis. I believe there's also a post-secondary requirement, higher education requirement entangled with that bill as well, or that law as well, which is to provide credit card information on credit cards or education on credit cards and what that does. And that's to be taught at their higher education level. So that'll be interesting how that's implemented as well at the post-secondary level. Yes, I believe that is the case.
Complete with a 29% interest rate.
I think I have a lot of T-shirts that say Discover on them somehow, but that's a story for another time. I'll turn it over. Mr. Funk?
Can I ask, sorry. So is this, am I reading this right? To take iWorks, they have to pass Health 1 to take iWorks, or is that a typo?
I'd
'Cause
like
I
to have a
was like,
really smart
why-
comeback for that, but
Yeah.
I'm sort of caught off guard that I didn't notice that
I
one.
was like-
So, no, that is not the,
I was like, why do I have to take health to learn how to do word processing? It was
carpal
like,
tunnel. That's-
it was like, oh.
My question is also, do they need that prerequisite to take Health 2? Is
They
that
must have
intended?
Health 1 to take
But do
Health
they
2.
need to have a certain grade in Health 1? Like, is that
No.
85% or higher?
They just have to pass the class.
Okay.
So thank you for pointing that out, Mrs. Walborn. There is no prerequisite for iWorks. No, thank you.
I know, I thought the same thing. I was like, why do you have to take Health for that?
There's been so many eyes on this, but that's, I mean, Spanish 3 was a requirement for Health 2 up until a week ago. So I'm glad we got rid of that. So, but, well, this is a time of the year where it gets exciting, looking for next year, going down to the 8th graders. This is the first year they'll start looking at classes to take for next school year. We're about a month early. Usually I present in February, but we pushed everything back a month to try to get the process going so we can get course numbers and things and actually meet with students to answer questions before they leave for the summer, because pretty much the bulk of the summer is spent with the master schedule. It's like a giant Sudoku puzzle. If you ever stop in the office, you'll see our sticky board covering one wall where we move classes around. So we're trying to get things done earlier, so if we have questions about students in their schedules and wishes, we can actually touch base before we begin working on it, because I know you're not surprised when we send out emails and make phone calls during the summer, we don't get many responses from students asking what they want until August. So we're trying to eliminate that extra work so when they come back, they're better prepared with their schedule. So that's why we're a month early. This is pretty much the only printed copies that are out there. This is the draft form that you have. This is digital, just like last year. So once it's finalized, it'll be put on all the students' iPads, and your school board iPads will also have an electronic copy to skim through. Because if you recall, Mr. Shepler last year worked with his media classes to make it sort of interactive. On the first page, we have the keys where for different classes, they can click on a symbol and it'll provide an infographic. And some students for classes made videos explaining what they'd be doing in the classes to take it to that next interactive step. So this will all go to the students in the next week or so, probably 2 weeks, electronically, because we're planning to start meeting with 8th grade students and high school classes at the end of this month to get this into their hands so they can begin looking and meeting with the counselors to go over some things to be prepared. The other form I have for you is, it's an overview. We started this many years ago of a bulleted form of what the changes from year to year are made in the handbook. That way you don't have to guess, it's clear for the board. We'll start off with some addition courses next year. While we're still working on the science course sequence and curriculum and everything, Mr. Shermer met with Ms. Snyder and I and found the need for there to be an AP environmental science class, because we have a lot of students interested in not just like environmental engineering, just environmental studies. And they have asked for another math class beyond what they would normally take. So Mr. Shermer working to develop the curriculum for this environmental AP science class, which we're rolling out this fall.
Quick question about that.
Yes.
So I know like in the past we had, students would take chemistry and then take AP chemistry, and that kind of got changed a couple of years ago where you could not have to take chemistry, go right into AP Chem. Would there be a lot of overlap between the environmental science and the AP? Like, would you just take one or the other?
I would see depending on what track, because I'd have students that would finish, take the biology, take chem, want to take an AP, or would take AP Chem and need one more. It's like, I have no desire for biology whatsoever. Or opposite, I am not that past chemistry, I am not taking AP Chem, and this would be one more option for an AP science class.
Right, but what I'm saying is if they already took environmental science, would there be too much overlap for them to take AP environmental science?
No, it would be, there'd be overlap, but this one would go more
further.
in depth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would this be an AP course by, like, I guess Scholastic or whatever, would actually have the College Board have an AP
Yes.
exam, the whole bit?
That is correct.
So it would be very rigorous compared to the other
That
environmental
is
science
correct.
course we had.
Yes. And if you know Mr. Shermer's AP chemistry course, I imagine this would be similar to that, but targeting different interests. Some of the other courses, the music department, they dropped one of their other courses and want to try bringing up another, it's called a treble choir. There are no prerequisites. You do not have to be part of the course. Just a way to get more kids involved in music and singing. The personal finance course we talked about. The iWorks, where basically Mr. DeLellis got in there and working with Mrs. Matosh and looked at the Microsoft Publisher, the Excel, and those office suites. And we're looking, because moving more to the iWorks, which cover all those. And he saw a lot of those concepts can be taught very well in a shorter period of time. You don't need 3 standalone courses. They can be combined into the iWorks.
I do have a question about
Yes.
that, as far as how that it's going to correlate to, because obviously I understand we are an Apple school district, we use apples, but not every business company uses Apple moving forward. And so how does that translate, or how do we see that as a district being a teachable skill for them to be able to translate that to using Microsoft Office products or other things? I know there's numbers, pages on an Apple device, and
Yes.
how compatible are they that a student's going to be able to utilize this skill in the real
Mrs.
world?
Matosh is going to jump in here behind you.
Sure. Honestly, Google, Google Docs, the Google Suite, Microsoft Suite, Apple Suite, all of them are interchangeable. I think once a student learns one, they're going to be able to use any of them.
Okay.
There's some differences, but not enough to be like it's going to cause
It's
them.
going to
Yeah.
cause. Okay.
Yeah.
And I did convert when we moved to the Google platform. It uploaded my files I've had in Excel for many years, and there was a few nuances, but they're very similar.
I guess my question would be that if it is so interchangeable, why? I don't understand why we're introducing them to Apple Suite, and it looks like we're getting rid of Microsoft Office. So we're looks like we're deleting Advanced Microsoft Office. We're combining it, I guess, with the Office course. So will they have instruction in Excel? Will they have instruction? Sorry, my back is to you. Will they have instruction in Microsoft Office, Word, Excel, Access Publisher? Like everywhere everywhere. I've talked to people, I've been asking, and I don't know any place that uses Apple. And a lot of kids graduate, they go on to college, and they're not using Apple products. They're not using iPads. So I just am not sure I understand. This sounds like it would be great to prepare our students to be successful in our high school, but doesn't sound like it's designed to prepare students to go out into the world where they're not using Apple products, as far as I know.
So one, I do think that if they're learning the Apple suite, they're going to be able to transfer it to any word processing. Word processing is word processing. They're learning, how to format. They're learning how to do all of the necessary things in any of the products. It's transferable. And
so
two,
then why are we changing it then? Like,
and
what-
two, so two, Office is a cost. There's a cost associated, and we're looking at not paying for as much as we are right now. So where the Apple products are free, so it's included in the devices.
So everyone here probably knows how I feel about this, but Apple is a cost. Apple is a huge, huge, huge cost to our district. And I just am concerned, and I've been concerned from the very first time I voted against going to Apple products, which our teachers have done an amazing job with Apple products, our administrators have done an amazing job with Apple products, and I couldn't be more thrilled. But it's very, 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 very expensive. And every year I just feel we go deeper and deeper and deeper in the hole where we're just going to bed further and further and further with Apple, and there's no way out. And our budget has hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that we're spending with Apple. It just concerns me.
I'm just going to say I don't disagree with much of that, but these applications aren't an additional cost. The Microsoft applications are an additional cost, so we're getting rid of those to use what we have included with the devices that we are already locked into. And with the transference of the skills from Sheets and Pages and all that stuff, not to mention all those applications Microsoft has and Google, they're all hosted applications now at this point. So like Office 365, you can have a MacBook and still use Office 365 on that. So like my son is going to college, and he insisted he needed an Apple laptop. I'm like, I don't know why.
Well, it's because that's what they use here.
Well, but I said to him, they're going to be using Excel and Microsoft Word and all that stuff. And he's like, and then I remembered in my work that Office 365 is online. It's hosted. So you can use it on any device, basically. So,
But to your
for what
point,
that's
my
worth.
daughter said the same thing to me, and she said, it's because what I know, Mom, that's all I've ever used is an iPad, which is kind of the beast we're creating here,
Oh.
right?
I think Jacob
Because-
just thought it was cooler.
No,
And that's
no,
what I said from
that-
the
I
very
mean,
beginning. Parents in this community cannot afford top-of-the-line Apple products when you can buy PCs for a lot cheaper. And I knew they'd get to know this. That's what they're going to want to have. I don't understand why we just, well, I guess what I'm hearing is we're going to stop buying Microsoft Office.
Well, I think you have to understand how much a license, whether we have an enterprise license or whether we buy a single user license. So a Microsoft license costs a fee, whether it's per user or whether you purchase an enterprise license, and that enterprise license is per 50 people, per 100 people, and so when you look at that, you're paying as an enterprise, which our district is an enterprise,
I
you're paying a
understand that.
larger amount. So I think that is, regardless of whether we purchase it and we teach the students to use Microsoft Office, when they leave here and they go and purchase a laptop to go to college, they're still going to have to pay a license fee to use Microsoft moving forward. Do I hear your point in that we potentially setting up, students that they're going to feel like they need to use an Apple product to host that on? Yes, possibly. That's their comfort level. But whether they choose to use the Apple products or whether they choose to go with Microsoft Office, either way, they're going to have to purchase
And
something.
I'll just be very, very, very transparent. Not that I haven't been all along, but when I was at CV, they said we can't afford Apple. And when I was working with PDE at State College, they were like, we can't afford Apple. And I'm like, well, Susquenita is. And the reason why I think this is an issue is, I'm sorry, and this is a bigger discussion for another day, but I'm fully prepared to ask us to switch across the district to Chromebooks. Chromebooks, there's a lot of districts that are using Chromebooks. You can do just as much with Chromebooks. I've done a lot of checking with it. It's a lot cheaper. I think we would save a heck of a lot of money if we went with Chromebooks and we purchased the Microsoft Suite instead of we're spending so much money on Microsoft, on Apple. And I know we're an Apple Distinguished School. It's credit all of our administrators and our teachers. They've done an amazing job. But financially, our district is hurting. And I don't know if it's worth it for us to be an Apple Distinguished School if we could save a lot of money using technology that is less proprietary than Apple. And that's why I just hate to see our curriculum now. I'd rather see our curriculum stay where we're going to teach maybe just not Apple, but we'll teach Google Sheets. You could do Google Sheets for free. Anyway.
And again, I think just like when we talk about My Math or we talk about a program, this is a program. What we're teaching students is the skills. We're teaching students in the back end how to utilize the sheets, how to utilize the formulas, how to problem solve, how to use a multitude of different platforms to be able to solve a problem. And I think that's what the skills that these classes are able to do. Word processing is a very broad term. How do you write a business letter? How are you writing a cover letter? How are you writing an inquiry or an email that's professional?
That's not what this is, though. They're saying you're being introduced to how the Apple suite of word processors, not how to write. That's not what I'm reading here.
But the skills that you take away from utilizing that platform, to me, it doesn't matter what platform you use. It's the skills that you derive from it that you're able to transfer into other areas throughout.
But to me, it does matter because Apple's very proprietary. Like you can go in and use Google Sheets, but you can't use the Apple suite unless you have an Apple product. You know, a PC can use a lot of different products, but Apple, as I understand it, does not play well with others. They're very proprietary. So if we're just teaching the Apple suite, you can only use that Apple suite with Apple products. I understand what you're saying, and I understand it's a financial thing with the Microsoft, but we're just going further and further and further in our investment with Apple, and I don't know, and I understand the skills. I think I understand this pretty well. I don't know that, I personally don't think we can afford it.
I almost would rather see them have students be exposed to the Microsoft Office stuff, like to see what the cost of that licensure is. So that when the students do leave here, they've been exposed to the Microsoft Office stuff because they've already got Pages and Keynote and everything else they've been doing on these iPads since they're in kindergarten now. So having them get the opportunity to work underneath, whether they're pretty close or not, just to let them know you've worked in Microsoft Office. Like, you know, it's not just, you don't just need to have a MacBook to go to college because it's all you know is Pages and Keynote. That is the quote from my daughter. You know, this is what I know, Mom. You know, and I ended the argument because we're not there to the point of buying her iPad or her laptop yet. But I was concerned about that and hearing Jonathan say that Jacob is saying the same thing. You know, we didn't have that discussion with Michael because the college provided his laptop. He didn't have a choice. You know, so, and he, you know, but anyway, that I would almost like to see giving the students the opportunity to learn both.
As far as the Chromebook goes, I just bought one for our church and found out none of the stuff that our church uses, like Quicken or whatever, can be transferred to the Chromebook. So I had to take it back and get a regular PC. So I didn't know there was a difference. I'm, like my granddaughter says, I'm electronically inept.
But I know a lot of schools are using Chromebooks. I think the tech school uses Chromebooks. I understand West Perry uses Chromebooks. A lot of schools are using Chromebooks to do what they need to be doing in schools.
And that certainly is a conversation if we wanted to go down that at certainly another point. And we are going to be presenting to you a device refresh cycle that I think is looking at it from a different lens. But with that said, I think it's really dependent upon what you want to do with that device.
Exactly.
What you want to do with the device. Because the creative tools that are within an iPad are a little different than what's in a Chromebook. So it's what are we able to do? And I want to remind that that device and those creative tools are an excellent tool in the hands of an excellent teacher, become even greater within the classroom. And the reason we're an Apple Distinguished School, yes, we use Apple products, that's one checkbox, but not the only. The main reason is we have outstanding teachers who use the device to be able to enhance learning in a creative mechanism and way to engage students within the classroom. That's why.
I just, one other thing historically, and I'm sorry if I sound like I'm ranting, and Craig will remember this, and Quiggs, if he was here, I don't know who else. But one of the reasons why our curriculum revision cycle is so messed up right now is because when we went to iPads, we were told instead of spending several $100,000 a year on textbooks and materials for our curriculum, we would buy iPads, remember, Craig? And the teachers would be able to write their own curriculum because all this stuff is free textbooks, free everything. And I was like, when are they going to be able to spend time writing their own curriculum with all this free stuff? They'll go out and do all that. So we would have all this extra money because we're not buying textbooks or materials anymore for the teachers because it would all be free and they can just go and pull it all from the iPad. Do you remember that, Craig? And I remember thinking, that's nonsense. But we did it, and it was nonsense. And so now we have the cost of taking care of a curriculum which has really been neglected for many, many, many years. And we also have this extra cost of this iPad. And it's just, we only have so much money. And so that's a concern. And I heard what you said, Dr. Fox, and I know that is true. But I've been doing some checking and asking of kids every time when I see them around, whatever. And a lot of them aren't, and again, some of our teachers are doing amazing, amazing things with iPads. But some of them aren't. And their kids are turning in assignments, they're taking tests, they're doing grades. And I just, there's a lot out there, but I guess we're going to have to come down to, do we want to pay our teachers a decent salary, or do we want to be an Apple Distinguished School? Or do we want to purchase curriculum materials, or do we want to have iPads? And I hate to say it that way, but when I look at our budget, my mother always said, you can't take blood from a stone. Like, something's got to give. And the one thing I'm looking at is maybe we could do some technology stuff at a cheaper cost. But that's a whole other conversation, and I wouldn't bring it up tonight except for this iWorks course just has me a little concerned.
Is there any chance we could see what the cost, or not tonight, but just what the cost is of the licensure that we're saving by not doing the Microsoft Office? You might have it, Christine, but if not, whenever.
Yeah, I mean, we have been paying it for years, and we were in an agreement and looking at changing that agreement. At this time, I have what our agreement is now per year. It's a 5-year agreement, but I don't have, if we were just to go like bits and pieces, because we are not going to do it school-wide.
Well, what is it now? Do you know that? Like, what if it was
It's
school-wide?
about $13,000 a year.
Okay.
Before Apple products, though, we were purchasing the Microsoft suite forever.
Well, yeah, and we have, so the,
I mean, not
over
before,
the last
before
couple
Apple, I meant.
years, even, so we were using Apple products, Microsoft products, and Google for years now. And so one thing, over the last couple years, we have been slowly integrating into Google more. So we are now using the Google suite more and moving away from Microsoft, since Google is free. So that, it wasn't even moving towards the Apple products, it was moving towards the Google products.
Thank you, and that makes perfect sense.
And I would just say we do use Google products more from a collaborative point of view, with documents, sheets. We use it here. We use it for our email. So I think it definitely is a product that allows for that collaboration.
Would it be worthwhile to have the class do that for students?
Well, I think those are elements, and we can certainly make sure that that's added in there. And definitely when we look at that, that's the utilization of that from a word processing point of view, absolutely. From a Sheets point of view, absolutely. And being able to introduce different platforms, including the Google Suites, 100%. Yes.
And just on a whole, most of our students pick between Google or Pages. Like a lot of a lot of teachers allow the students to choose which they feel more comfortable using. And maybe some teachers will say, use Pages for this project or use Google for this project. But if, they have that choice, they're not using Microsoft on the iPad, though. They're using Pages or Google.
Okay, then that's what I'm saying. Like, is there,
I can
instead
meet
of just call this iWorks, could you just introduce them to all of this stuff instead of just narrowing it down just to
And I
an
think
Apple
it is
thing?
a semester course, but yes, right, it's a semester course. So
what I'll do, we'll take this feedback and meet with Mr. DeLellis, since he's going to be the expert teaching this, and have this open discussion with him, because yes, Google should be a big part of it, because in the office, we use Google Sheets, Pages, that's pretty much what we are using instead of the old one.
Like instead of Microsoft.
Microsoft, thank you. So yeah, that'd be an easy change on the surface for my end. It'll just work with him to make sure it's a blending of exposure to the different platforms as opposed to a singular one. Not necessarily counting Microsoft but the Google and that. But yeah, I'll meet with him and we can make a tweak to that. And moving along with this, the Health 2 we talked about, that came through student interest and also pushed to have our students CPR certified, and that'll be the conclusion. They'll be reaching out. Last year, we had Duncan and EMS come in and worked with our Act 158 students to get them CPR certified, so this will be an opportunity in a health class to also have that opportunity. Some of the modifications, they're simple, but I want to make sure you see it. We'll come back to the computer science courses. That's a whole page unto itself. But music technology, they're putting in a prerequisite and pretty much changing some descriptions for voice class and the other music theory. We're removing the prerequisites for piano and keyboarding, so anybody can take that, and we have various levels, and it's often self-paced. Mr. Peterson revamped the descriptions for probability and statistics and pre-calc and trig. And then some of the deletions were the Adobe Access and Advanced Microsoft Office. The survey of music, which had minimal interest and not enough students interested in taking that. We are removing, it's going to be temporary depending on the students coming up, but for next year we will not be offering AP Spanish because of the students who we have available that would actually qualify. The number is not enough to run the class. We still will be offering Spanish 5, though we have more students that seem to be going into that than the AP. Accounting 3, we don't have any students taking Accounting 2 this year, so we won't be offering Accounting 3. And the EMT certification course, we've had it in the handbook the last few years, but the last time we offered this was the 1920 school year, and we have to have 12 to 15 students for HAC to come out to run the course. We have not had that, and with the financial costs associated, and plus VOTEC and some of the other colleges with emerging health programs are having other opportunities than there were when we first rolled out the EMT certification course. On the very last page is a list of the changes to our computer science. We hired a new teacher this year who has a vast background in computer programming and computer science in general, Mr. Albin, and he got in there and was like, this is what we need, this is what the students need, we need to be including more students. And so he revamped the courses and the AP courses and had a standalone Python because some of them overlap. One of the APs overlap with Python, so we wanted a Python 2. And Mr. Album's also taken over our esports team and is getting that up and running. But those courses there are the changes that he's making to the computer science courses.
So for the computer science classes, is it that they have to have, so I'm going to just say like game development, 70% minimum in both Algebra 1 and Geometry, or just one?
You have to have, you can have a 70% minimum in algebra, If you don't have that, if you're taking geometry, even if you're taking it while you're taking the computer course, you just have to be enrolled in that.
Okay.
And he focused more on having some math requirements that's going to make it easier, especially for the AP ones, than saying, well, you must take this computer class before you take that. Because he says he can, if you have the basic math skills, he can teach you the computer part of it, is what he's saying. But he's a very knowledgeable instructor. So.
I have a quick question just back to the AP Environmental Science. Is there any concern regarding staffing that if we're adding that class? I know just.
We looked at numbers with Mr. Shermer, and we should be able to fit them in his class.
Okay.
Well, in his schedule.
Okay, great, thanks.
Are there any costs associated with these changes in the computer? And I mean, if there are, we should take care of it, of course. But like the upgrading of the computers, additional.
No, Mr. Albin, was it last year or the year before? This year. We got the new ones, and he says they're perfectly fine for everything he needs to do.
Perfect. Awesome.
Do most of these look at the software side of computers? Do any of our courses look at the hardware side and walk students through what could potentially be a field such as IT and looking at the hardware part of computer and computer technology?
Not so much. This is more on the software and programming, not so much on the actual. There's some little bit with, go ahead.
So interestingly, that's an area certainly, and our partners at Cumberland Perry Area Career and Technical Center have that aspect. You know, when you talk about fiber and being able to run and cable and rebuild computers. One of the interesting parts, right, is Mr. Fleischer worked with our students last year to build our gaming computers. So they bought the components and they put those together. Those are those teachable moments, while it's not a standalone class, I think that are just outstanding for our students to do. And one of our goals continues to be to run our own, and we have some students interested in help right now, is our tech team that can go out as students and work and help at that help desk level. All right, to troubleshoot, my iPad's not working, or what's going on with my Canvas? Why has this disappeared? What's happening here? And not just for students, but to help out staff as well. That is certainly one of the goals. And I think they get a little of that troubleshooting also in our media classes. Why are we going blank on the screen? Why is our podcast not working, or why are our announcements and the videos we're working not working live right now this second? So that troubleshooting and communication, I think, gets interwoven into those classes. But that could be a whole nother teacher, a whole nother class. And at Career and Tech, it's a whole nother zip code. So it's a great field.
So are there any, and I know he's new, and so I don't want to overwhelm him, but taking this programming and this computer science piece and tying it in with any engineering. So I see that they're doing the intro to computer science and robotics, and certainly there's a lot that can be done with that as far as robotics and engineering and that piece. So does he have any, or has he said anything about
Yes.
maybe collaborating and tying that in
With
with
Mr. Moore.
engineering?
Mr. Moore created the architectural class and revamped our tech ed. And this is his first year we have that class going. So I figure this is Mr. Moore's first year doing that one here at Susquenita. He has experience with it, and Mr. Albin's. So yes, we're looking at collaboration between the two of them for sure, and bringing in different components. We're looking at the engineering. So that has been pieces of discussion, nothing finalized yet, but yeah,
It sounds a lot like the Project Lead the Way curriculum. Are we still headed in that direction with our tech?
Project Lead the Way is certainly being explored. And it involves a systematic process, if that's the direction that after vetting it, that we go, will be K to 12. So there'll be a continuum of experiences for students at the K through 12 pathways.
And for those who don't know, for those who don't know, it's basically STEM, correct? I mean,
STEM, and yes, STEM engineering involves the sciences as well, absolutely.
any other questions about this? Like I said, you'll get the finalized copy. I will be meeting with Mr. Lellis to bring up that one course, and then we're looking at rocking and rolling the end of the month with 8th grade and our underclassmen to get things going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Funk. Thank you, Ms. Snyder, and thank you, Mrs. Matash, and to all the teachers, certainly at the high school, who had a vision and continue to make sure that they listen to the needs of graduates, they listen to the needs of students that are currently in school, and they explore passions and areas that they know they can build on, and creating a curriculum course guide that's as robust as we have for as few teachers as we have as well. And I want to stress that a lot of these offerings are amazing for the size of the teaching staff that's here at the high school. So well done. Thank you. I'm going to hand it over now to Mr. Black and Mr. Holmes and Mr. Ward. Talk about a refresh, certainly at our middle school cafeteria and what that may offer students.
As Christine will put up there on the screen for us. Mr. Holmes, do you want to, I know we talk a lot about budgets and where's this money going to come from, so you're going to see numbers up here. But I don't know, Mr. Holmes, if you want to kind of talk before I do it about where the money we're looking at, or do you want me to do it first and talk after? All right, so you'll see on here. So Mr. Holmes came to Ken and I about maybe refreshing some of our dining areas in our middle school. So we broke it down into 3 phases. So if you look on the left, that's the main cafeteria. The middle one's kind of outside between our basketball courts and the district office, which is an area that I've been trying to fix up the last 3 years because the kids will go out there and, of course, they want to play ball and throw it off Dr. Fox's window and stuff like that. So we're trying to, you'll see, trying to put like a natural barrier in there. And the third one, and the least concerning to me, is the commons area, because the commons area, we did a good job of setting up some of our old tables that we have out there. The 5th grade uses it during lunch for kids that owe some makeup work, so they'll sit out there and eat their lunch, and there'll be a teacher that roams around out there and helps them out. So kind of different area there. Also, if you look on the left, and we'll show you this here a little bit later, that up top there, the sound partitions and the tables, you'll see that later, are there from whenever Mr. Friday went to the middle school. So that's all natural right there, all original to the building. There's a clock up there on the far right that hasn't worked in 3 years at least, because I haven't seen it move yet. And we'll talk about those sound partitions too. If you notice up there, they're maroon and blue. Now I think they're supposed to look like curtains maybe, but they're not very appealing to the eye. So Christine, if you want to go to the, so that's the picture of the 1992 yearbook. That's my math teacher there, Mr. Talenko, and that's the same tables we use to this day. So we've got good use out of them. I mean, they're still in good shape, but just kind of why we're looking at maybe refreshing the cafeteria there. On the next page, the next slide, sorry, just kind of shows you there the breakdown. So we worked with Phillips Workplace. That's who Chester had Mr. Holmes had set us up with. And we talked to them. They gave us 3 quotes for each area, and I put obviously the cheapest ones up there. Not that they're the cheapest, but they're still good quality furniture and stuff of that nature. So in the main cafeteria, the furniture alone, and you'll see that, and Dr. Fox has a handout he can give you then when he gets a chance. The furniture is about $139,000, and then to replace the sound dampening walls on the wall, like we're looking at orange and black ones we were talking about, obviously, because that's our school colors, about $14.5 for that. And then as you go down through, like obviously phase 1 is our main concern, so that's what we're hoping at least for that. Phase 2, the outdoor space, we're looking at 4 of the picnic tables, kind of if you ever been to the elementary, the orange and black ones down there. That's what we put outside. We put down like a little, what do we say, a 15 by 40 foot area. Probably put rubber mulch in there so when Scott has to mow around it, he doesn't have to worry about going under the tables, moving the tables. And the commons area, we can kind of talk about that picture as we get there too, but that's about a little over $6,000. And I'll explain the main cafeteria now, and if you have questions for me, I can do my best, but the monetary questions will go to Mr. Holmes. So this is you have a colored version of this picture, so I don't really like this picture, so we'll go to the next one. This is the one you guys have. So this is what we're looking at doing here. So the top end is where you'd enter the cafeteria at, and the end closer to Dr. Fox's head there, that's the lines the kids would come in to get their food at the middle school. So if you look at the 2 long orange booth sections, that would be the natural lines for the kids that would walk in, get their stuff, and walk back out. That's why there's kind of a bigger gap in the middle. And that would seat about 180 to 182 kids. And our highest class right now is 168. So that's why those tables, the circle tables in the middle, are kind of for, if we need them, we can use them. If not, we can roll them out in the commons area, and so on and so forth. The main purpose, obviously, is for more upgraded seating for eating in the cafeteria, but we also see this as a place where faculty meetings, teachers taking 2 or 3 classes down there, and they can move the tables around and do some collaborative work, especially with our 5th and 6th grade kids. They have a win period in the middle of the day and an acceleration period at the end of the day where you could have 2 teachers down there with their ELA class and math class, the team of teachers, just bopping back and forth between kids of what they need to get done and what they need to work on. So that's what we have for the main cafeteria. I don't know if we can probably stop at the first phase. Is there any, like I said, I know that we always talk about budgeting. Where's this money going to come from? Mr. Holmes will talk about that later. It's not just going to come out of the blue, but there's a reason why he came to us to ask us to do this. There's money here or there that he can talk about. Is there any questions like about the setup or about why we're looking at doing this?
Is the washroom still going to be there?
Yeah,
or-
so the washroom that on the left side, where that L shape is towards Dr. Fox and Mr. Fry, that's the washroom right there. So that, we'll make sure that it's pushed back because we have the trash cans up there and everything. So there's enough room that won't affect it. So we
What
made
is
sure that, and then when we talked to the Phillips, the company, they made sure there was the proper distances in between each table for ADA or anything like that. So
What are the
That'll-
tall, like, tower-like things? Is that garbage? Is that garbage?
those are the that's the addition to the cafeteria, the 2 columns. that are
oh,
on
the
left-hand
actual- okay.
side, on the left-hand side when you walk in.
So durability of the booths, because obviously when you go to restaurants over the years, after several years, like you see a brand new restaurant open, the booths look wonderful, but then over the years they start to either get holes in them and then you see them taped or, so what is the durability of something like that, knowing that the current seats have been there since 1992?
92, yeah. Mr. Holmes will be able to, I mean, they gave us a thing about warranties, but the warranties were very based on what you get, right? The durability. I don't know if you had any.
Yes, they do come with a warranty. It is a heavier duty type of furniture. It's what you'd see in a college or university.
Okay.
And obviously, we'd be very, like, checking it periodically. If we see a hole, we're watching cameras, and there's going to be, obviously, it'd be a reimbursement type thing, because there's no reason, 1, during lunch to have a pencil down there. But if you're down there from the class, I understand, but 2, just to stab it through, it's kind of, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah, like, I mean, I just feel
Just the
like.
wear and tear of
Yeah,
it.
the wear and tear, like, what's the overall lifespan of something like that? I mean, I think it looks great, but, you know, just seeing what the overall lifespan of it,
Just a couple of small things. My OCD looking at this like wigs me out a little bit. Like, how come that top one we have the curve on this side, but down on this one it's on the other side? Why not have it match? And then over by where the pillars are,
We can do that. We
yeah,
can move
I mean,
around.
it's
They're
just-
yeah, we can move them.
it's just kind of
They're movable.
odd how it's. You would.
I know what you're saying. Yeah, just kind of move. We can slide them around. They're all easily to move that way. Like with cleaning and stuff like that, it's pretty easy. The tables will be on wheels, so they'll be easy to get out of the way.
Yeah, but since that's
So-
the booth style, you'd have to
Yeah.
have a separate configuration to, you know what I mean, flip the curve or whatever.
Put it
Just-
upside down.
So, yeah, you're around middle schoolers like all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any concern about fighting for seating that because of the booth kind of stuff, or do you know what I mean? Like that you would have kids go, I don't, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
I think
I see. I
you know when
don't-
you're in long tables, it's
Yeah.
not as.
I don't think that'd be that much of that, but if there is, it would be just the process. We'll have to do like a rotational piece, like, hey, you guys, every month we'd rotate or something and give the kids that maybe don't have the prime time seats, give them a spot to chance to rotate.
No, I'm like almost thinking not so much the primetime
Oh,
seating
okay.
because, you know, you'll have the cliquey groups of kids that'll still be dating in
Right.
their senior year when they were dating in 7th grade. Not that I'm bitter, but no. I'm talking more about the two, like the two double, like, you know, where you got a kid sitting with his girlfriend on the booth part. He doesn't want anybody, they don't want anybody sitting across
across
from
from
them.
them, yeah.
Like, I'm just, like in the long tables, you see less of that, I would think, because it's so industrial. But I'm wondering, I just just wondering, because I love it. I think it looks great. I'm just wondering if it, do you
I don't
think?
see much, what do you think? I don't see much of that at the middle, at our middle school anyway.
To speak that, I think like what you brought up, I think that initial shock and that initial phase of getting new equipment, I think it's gonna cause a little bit of a stir. But I think that's something that's gonna be very short-lived.
Okay.
And just the other point that I want to make, when we walk in, you know, my kids in high school too, when we go into all these new schools, all these newly renovated, newly built schools, this is what we're seeing here.
Oh, yeah,
It's really nice stuff.
Oh, yeah, I agree. I totally agree. We were, I think, one of the Cumberland Valley schools I was at or whatever, and I'm thinking, this is really nice, you know?
One thing that Ms. Black and myself are really passionate about too is really trying to refresh the middle school and give it that new appearance. We're painting the walls, we're hanging up the posters, we're doing all these things. We're trying to do some things with the restroom, and this is just like the next big ticket item that we're really, really excited about. This, it's just not us. We're not excited about it. I think our kids and our community, our families, once they see this, they're gonna be really, really excited about this.
Yeah.
And
I
it's
actually,
creating like an environment and a culture of like what we're all about.
yeah. I actually, when you first said booths, I kind of like this. I was thinking in my mind more like a traditional restaurant booth. There, I think you might have a little bit more of that sort of, I don't want to sit in that booth with that person, but the way that the open seats are across from it, I think is great. I love it.
When we were working with the company that we're working with right now, we worked with the engineers and the architects that were putting this together. We went through a lot of different revisions, and they took a lot of our concerns and a lot of our requests and put it together like with their knowledge, what works and what doesn't work. And us collaborating together, this was the solution that kind of seemed to work out the best for us.
Okay, sounds good.
And when I'm looking at the flow of things, I know like the size of things might not look right with the doors and everything, but when you put it together, and you're always in the cafeteria like we always are, like the flow of this is gonna be absolutely perfect.
Perfect.
Get kids in and out, get their lunches, get back to their seats.
Yeah.
Get to the trash, get back to their seats, and this is an ideal design for that.
Perfect.
If the tables are on wheels, what will stop?
Well,
I
they're
should
they're
say-
only on wheels when you lift them up. They, like, you set
Oh.
them down, the wheels will elevate off the ground.
So the kids can't figure that out and scooch them
No,
everywhere,
they don't
okay?
have to be doing that.
And that was one of our requests, so when we go to company, I'll figure out things around. And another thing that we talked about here in the future is trying to get our RT program to get back up in middle school. So the RT program, everything's built in the cafeteria, so obviously we're going to work some of that stuff as well. To be able to move people.
Okay, so what's it going to cost us?
I know you,
He's going to,
I'm not there yet.
Sorry.
I know you said you were looking at the sound dampeners to be black and orange. This rendering might not be the right colors. This looks gray and like two different
No,
shades
yeah,
of
it's not.
orange.
It's black
So
and
what are the colors? Because
it's
To
pitch,
me,
I think it's
Jonathan-
midnight black or pitch black, and orange is the carrot or something, carrot color type, but it's a brighter orange. Well, they don't have
It's-
that, actually, they don't have,
The orange is similar to the orange, I believe, that's in the high school,
Yes,
for the high school
correct.
chairs.
Because where Jonathan is concerned about the booths not going in the right direction, I think it clashes if you have all different shades of orange.
no, the
that
orange,
don't
the oranges
match.
will be the same, the chairs and the booths will be the same.
Okay, and then would that match like what's on the walls?
Yeah, we're still working on that, but it was the same brightness. Yeah.
Like,
Certain contrasting colors will aid in digestion.
The next couple pages then too are just about the main cafeteria again. So Mr. Singley asked on the next page, so number 4, that would be based on the quotes they gave us, about $154,000 for the main cafeteria. 180 students. Obviously, the main purpose is breakfast and lunches, but obviously the professional development opportunities and the collaborative opportunities we would have. So our lunches, like we have first, second, and third period, and then the last part of 6th and 7th period where our cafeteria is empty. So that would leave a lot of room for collaboration in there if we wanted to do that as well. The next one kind of too just explains what we talked about, the flexibility. There's the durability, Mrs. Welburn. I can show you the warranty information. It's about 23 pages, so I didn't want to go over the whole spiel, but I can get you a copy of that. All right, next one. So phase 2 is just what we're looking at. So that's what I kind of talked about. So what the thought is to put a 15 by 40 foot rectangle out in between the two buildings. And my vision and Ken's vision, maybe 6x6s as a border and rubber mulch inside of that. And that helps with the maintenance department, because right now we have a couple benches out there, small ones, but every time Scott wants to mow, he has to lift them up, put them down, lift them up, put them down. The benches, we're going to have 4 tables, similar to what Mark has at the elementary, where you go, where the kids come out for car riders. If you ever went there, they'll be orange and with black legs on that. In that one, if you go ahead. We have 2 small ones, but yeah, right. Oh yeah, and besides eating, like Ken's saying, it would give us a chance, like for maybe an outdoor classroom for our kids, because it's closer to the buildings for the Wi-Fi to work. And also, we're doing a program this year. We just started with 8th grade this marking period. This coming one will be 7th grade, where the students that get distinguished honor roll, we give them a card and they have a chance to go to the library, up to the guidance suite, the counseling suite, or outside during their flex period with their friends and kind of do their work or hang out. It's kind of given, I mean, in education, a lot of focus is on the bad behaviors of the kids. So giving those kids that are doing the right things the rewards to show kind of the kids that this is what we're looking for. So that would be another benefit. The next picture shows then just kind of where it would go. So on the bottom by Dr. Fox, his office. You got Mrs. Bressy's office. A lot of kids always out there like hanging out. So in the benefit, besides being able to eat out there in an outdoor classroom during recess, the kids that aren't, like Dr. Jones was talking about, the kids that aren't, what do you want to say, athletic, like the PE stuff, running around, that could be a place to hang out with their friends, just kind of, and not be worried about getting hit in the head by a ball whenever you're standing there, because there really shouldn't be any ball play over in that area, because there's nowhere you'd be throwing it over the tables. In that one, we just kind of, the next page goes over the benefits of it. We talked about the seating for students during lunch, distinguished honors, barrier between the district office and the outdoor playground area, another area to sit. Yep, you can go next one. So this is the least, I guess, of our concerns. Yeah. So that's the commons area. So on the right is coming out of the cafeteria. No, actually not on the right. By Dr. Fox is coming out of the cafeteria. But it's just tables. I mean, like right now we have on the top right we have a circle table, like a white one. Bottom left we have a circle table, and on the top we have one of the old school cafeteria tables, which are working fine. I think the only thing we were thinking about was maybe putting pads on those marble seats, like a cushiony type thing. It's kind of hard when you sit out there. I don't know if you guys have ever been to the middle. Some of you have, obviously. But when you sit on those, they're kind of hard. They didn't really give us yet the quote, right, Mr. Holmes, for the pads. They're still working on it. They just gave us a quote kind of for the furniture out there. So, I mean, the only thing we really want out there would be the padded seats, but I don't know if that takes away from the aesthetics of the original school or how that works. But that one was like, again, extra seating during lunch. 5th and 6th grade use it. They call it a working lunch for some of the kids that need that extra time, and the teacher will go out there and help them out. And we have a lot of kids that do sit out there. Like that's like our peanut-free table. So the one of them over there on the left. So we have a student that has a severe peanut allergy, and that's where they will sit. We also have a lot of students that sit by the long table just because they don't want to be in the congested cafeteria. Whether it's anxiety or just like Mrs. Singley was saying, wanting to sit with a group of friends out there in a longer table. So, and then the next to last page, I'm almost there. Oh, I think I am there. This is the last page. Just showed you kind of the pricing, which obviously is what everything's focused on. And if you read up the top there, that's what Mr. Holmes can talk about. There's funds from the